welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenna Karen. If you're new here, I am a travel agent who specializes in Disney and Universal destinations, and I get a ton of questions as a travel planner specializing in Disney and Universal. So today I thought we could do a video with my most frequently asked questions. If you haven't already, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting on this video. It really helps my business more than you know, and more so it just helps my content get out there to the people who want to see it most. So thank you for everybody who has been here since the beginning, and thank you for being here if you're new. All right, we are going to get right into it, and I have divided some FAQ based on Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and Disney Cruise Line, and then there's just some general frequently asked questions. So we'll see how many I get through. I did ask on my Instagram what people's most frequently asked questions are. I asked my other travel agent colleagues what they get asked most, and I also threw it out there to my Instagram community to see what people wanted to know most. So without further ado, let's start with some Disneyland. So the first number one question that I get asked when people are trying to plan their trip to Disneyland is, what's the best time of year to visit Disneyland? Now, deciding the best time of year to go on your family vacation is going to be definitely dependent on the family and what you're hoping to get out of the parks. For example, I recently had an inquiry where somebody wanted to visit Disneyland with their family, but they really wanted the classic Disneyland vibe. So they didn't want like Christmas decorations, they didn't want any Halloween decor or anything like that. So they wanted just the classic Disney. So if somebody's looking for that, there's usually some good deals to be had in the summer. For example, this summer, for the 70th celebration, there's a ton of really good deals at Disneyland. However, the summer gets quite hot, so a lot of people don't want to visit in the summer. So in terms of when is the best time to visit, that varies based on the family. But a question that goes hand in hand with that is, when are the lowest crowds at Disneyland? This sort of goes for Walt Disney World as well. Generally, September and early October are good times to visit because a lot of kids are just starting school again, and parents don't want to take their kids out of school right at the beginning of the year. So September and early October are a great time to go. After American Thanksgiving, so early December is also a great time because a lot of people travel for the holidays, either Thanksgiving or Christmas. So right in between that time is usually a great time to go. And then again in January and February. Which is interesting because for Canadians, a lot of people like to travel in January and February, I think, because it's the coldest months here, so we really just want to get away. But for the Disney parks, and I'm speaking to Disneyland specifically, again, we're starting that new point in school since after the holiday season, so January is typically a slower time to go. Number two frequently asked question for Disneyland Resort: how do I use Lightning Lane Multipass? So for all of you worried about Lightning Lane Multipass, either at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, rest assured, if you liked Genie Plus, the former system at both of the Disney parks, basically Lightning Lane Multipass at Disneyland is the same as what Genie Plus was, it just has a new name. So it's actually quite easy to use. There's no pre-bookings in advance like at Walt Disney World, so you can pre-purchase your Lightning Lane Multipass with your vacation package, or you can purchase it the day of when you're in the park. You lock in the pricing when you buy it with your vacation package though, so I usually suggest that. As soon as you enter the theme park, you can book your first Lightning Lane, and you can either use that Lightning Lane and book another one, or if you say you walk into the park at 8 a.m. and your first Lightning Lane isn't till noon, 2 hours after you book your first one, so at 10 a.m. you would be able to book another Lightning Lane in addition to the one that you're waiting for at noon, if that makes sense. So Lightning Lane Multipass is pretty easy to use at Disneyland. I do prefer the simplicity of it there, and I like that there's no stress about the pre-booking. You can sort of just go at it throughout the day. Another big question I get for Disneyland is, do I need a magic band when I'm at the Disneyland Resort? And if you are a Walt Disney World person, magic bands are everywhere and you can use them for almost everything when you're at Walt Disney World. And Disneyland is a little bit different. When you're staying on site at Disneyland, at the Grand Californian, Disneyland Hotel, or Pixar Place, you cannot open your hotel room door with your magic band, which is very convenient when you're at Walt Disney World. That's not the case. for Disneyland, okay? If you have the Magic Band Plus, it will interact and light up and buzz and that sort of thing during certain nighttime spectaculars and shows. So that's a nice perk. You can also use it to scan into your lightning lanes, which is super convenient. I don't think that a Magic Band is essential for Disneyland. I think a lot of people use their phones just because the Magic Bands don't do as much at Disneyland. But if you're a Walt Disney World person and you are going to Disneyland and you already have a Magic Band Plus, by the way, are the ones that are going to work at Disneyland, you might as well bring it and use it for convenience, right? I know I like to do that, but if you don't have a Magic Band Plus, you don't necessarily need to buy one for Disneyland. They don't do as much. All right, hopping into some Walt Disney World FAQ now. A big question that I get from folks is, again, about lightning lanes, but it works differently at Walt Disney World. So people oftentimes ask me, how do I go about pre-booking my lightning lanes at Walt Disney World? So if you are staying on site at a Disney Resort hotel, you can book your lightning lane multi-passes and single passes up to 7 days prior to your check-in. So this is going to give you a distinct advantage versus guests staying off-site who can only book 3 days in advance. So at 7 a.m. Eastern, 7 days prior to your check-in, you are going to be able to go into the My Disney Experience app and pre-book all of your lightning lanes for up to 14 days of your trip, which is awesome. So you can book 3 attractions for Lightning Lane Multipass, 1 Tier 1 and 2 Tier 2 attractions for all of the days that you're going to be at the theme parks. You can also buy up to 2 Lightning Lane single pass reservations per guest per day. So you will be able to do all of that beforehand, which I think, you know, the pre-planning is nice in some senses because I think a lot of people miss that pre-planning sort of to get you excited about the trip. I preferred Genie Plus just because I feel like I could stack rides a little bit better with Genie Plus. However, I do like going into the park with a guaranteed 3 attractions. And then once you use a lightning lane, you can book another one. So some of the most popular attractions like Lightning Lane Single Pass for Guardians or Rise of the Resistance, a lot of the times those might sell out before an offsite guest is able to book them, because if enough resort guests book up to 7 days in advance, by 3 days in advance, a lot of the good times or even some of the attraction availability is completely gone. So I highly recommend staying on site at Walt Disney World. There are various different room types available to suit your budget. So I definitely think it's worth it to get that advanced Lightning Lane Multipass selection. Another big one that people ask me about Walt Disney World is, how long should my trip be? There's 4 theme parks to explore, 2 water parks, Disney Springs. There's so much to do at Walt Disney World. So, you know, just hopping back to Disneyland for a second, I ideally think that a minimum of 3 days is good at Disneyland. At Walt Disney World, I think an absolute minimum is 4, but I would prefer that you have 5 days to explore the theme parks, because I think 1 day dedicated to each park plus an additional day at Magic Kingdom is going to give you the best opportunity to see and experience what Walt Disney World has to offer. If you can go longer, amazing. If you could have 2 days at each park, I would definitely support that, because then you're not going to feel so rushed. You can build in some rest days in there. Like, I personally like going for 10 to 14 days just because then we can golf, we can have rest days, we don't have to rush through every theme park day. Like, we can take a lot more of a leisurely pace, which I really have come to enjoy. But I understand that not everybody can take that long of a vacation. So I ultimately think 4 days minimum, bare minimum at Walt Disney World. 5 is ideal if we're keeping it a little bit shorter, but if we can add on a couple in there to have some rest days, I think that that's going to allow you to make the most of your stay. Another big question at Walt Disney World is the dining plan worth it? So there are 2 types of dining plans at Walt Disney World. There's the quick service dining plan and the full regular Disney dining plan. So I think that this is very dependent on the family. I think that a lot of folks like the quick service dining plan because that offers you 2 quick service meals per person per day. And you know, that'll get you maybe breakfast and lunch or breakfast and dinner. And if you wanted to throw in a table service throughout your vacation, you very easily could. And you can bank those meals to another day. So if, for example, you used a quick service credit for your breakfast one day and you wanted to do table service dinner, you could, and you could use that quick service credit for dinner that you didn't use and bank it to the next day. So I think that that's a really good option for families. The Disney dining plan is one quick service and one table service credit per person per day. So this is a lot of sit down dining. So if you are on more of an extended trip, I definitely think the sit down table service dining plan is worth it. If you are on a short trip, like if we're looking at that 4 or 5 day trip, to be completely honest, I don't think I would get the Disney dining plan, just because that's going to take up a lot of your park time, a lot of your experience time sitting down to eat. So while I think it's a great way to force yourself to take a rest on a short trip, I don't think that it's going to be worth your time. I would suggest the quick service dining plan in that case. But for the longer trips and you're wanting to luxuriate and see more of Walt Disney World, more of what Walt Disney World has to offer, I think the Disney dining plan is going to be worth it. And one of the questions that I get asked all the time is, what resort should I stay at? I think a lot of people are fairly overwhelmed with all of the choices at Walt Disney World because there are so many hotels to choose from, and that's fair enough. So I'm going to choose some of my favorites from each category. For the value category at Walt Disney World, my top picks would be Pop Century. I really like All Star Music as well. All Star Movies, but I do like All Star Music for their family suites. I think that those bring a great value. They can sleep up to 6 guests. Really like those family suites at All Star Music. Pop Century, though, is always going to take the cake for me because of its location. It's located on the Disney Skyliner, and while you're paying a little bit more than the All Star resorts, the amenities that you're close to, that makes it worth the extra price for me. So Pop Century would be my favorite value. In terms of moderate, my absolute favorite is Port Orleans French Quarter. I think a lot of people really love Caribbean Beach too, which is also located on the Disney Skyliner. The one thing I don't love about Caribbean Beach is the resort size. If you are not located in one of the buildings that's either close to the Skyliner or close to the main building, you're going to be walking a lot. And after a long day of walking in the parks, that's not my favorite thing to do. It does have an internal bus loop to take you around if need be, but that takes more time. So I like French Quarter because of the size. It's very small. No matter where you get off the bus or park your car, it's 5 minutes and you're at your room. I also love that they have boat transportation to Disney Springs. I just think the resort is very quaint and beautiful. So I really like French Quarter in terms of a moderate. And for deluxe, honestly, you can't go wrong with any of the deluxe resorts at Walt Disney World. And this is a big factor, like depending on what your family is looking for. So if you're a Magic Kingdom family, staying on the monorail loop is going to be your best bet because you're going to have the easiest access to Magic Kingdom. So that's going to be Polynesian, Wilderness Lodge, which isn't on the monorail loop, but it's a short boat ride over. The Contemporary, Bay Lake Tower, and of course the Grand Floridian. Those are going to be the Magic Kingdom choices. But if your family is an Epcot family, or maybe if it's an adults only trip, I highly recommend staying somewhere where you can walk to Epcot. So that would be Boardwalk, Yacht, or Beach Club. I really love those resorts. You can also walk to Hollywood Studios from there. So in terms of value for a deluxe resort, I really like the pricing of Animal Kingdom Lodge and Wilderness Lodge. I think that those are usually the most budget friendly in terms of a deluxe resort. So if you're sort of wanting to get into that entry level deluxe and be able to experience the benefits that come with deluxe, which is the extended evening hours, more amenities, better transportation options, those are sort of more of the entry level types. All right, switching gears to some Disney Cruise Line. I get a lot of questions about Disney Cruise Line. Again, this can be something that is very overwhelming for people to plan if they've never been on a cruise before or they've never explored Disney Cruise Line. So people have a hard time choosing what ship they think is going to be best for them. And a lot of folks think that it's all about the itinerary, and it is. It's important to love where you're going, but at the same time, I think it's really important to choose a ship that your family's gonna like. So some of the earlier Disney cruise line ships would be Magic, the Disney Magic, the Disney Dream, the Fantasy, the Wonder. These are smaller ships that are a lot easier to navigate than some of the newer ships like the Treasure and the Wish, soon to be Destiny, and the Adventure. I think that the smaller ships have a bit more of a homey vibe, and it's just going to be easier to get around. Plus, there's less people on the cruise because the ships are smaller. So I think that for first-time cruisers, one of these smaller ships might be a good way to ease yourself into a Disney cruise. In terms of ports and where you should sail out of, if it is your first Disney cruise, I definitely recommend sailing out of Port Canaveral. It's going to be the easiest and most seamless for you. You can stay at the Walt Disney World Resort a day before your cruise, because always fly in a day before your cruise departs. Don't leave that to the last minute. You can stay at Walt Disney World and take Disney Cruise Line transport from Orlando, the Walt Disney World Resort, to Port Canaveral. That's going to be the easiest. Going to Fort Lauderdale, to cruise out of Fort Lauderdale, it's not bad because you can take the Bright Line, which is their speed train from the Orlando Airport MCO to Fort Lauderdale. That's actually what I'm going to be doing next year, so that is an option as well. Of course, if you're Canadian like me, sailing out of Vancouver, if you're going to Alaska, is very convenient, so that's a great port option as well. But I mean, Disney has so many itineraries available. If you're looking for the easiest, I'd say Port Canaveral, but there are so many ports worldwide that we're going to be able to get you to sail from. All right, another really big one is what's included on a Disney cruise. So when you are paying for your cruise, all of your food is included, not alcohol, okay, but food. This would be at like the rotational dining experiences. So there are certain extras that you could pay for food. So if you go to Palo for brunch, if you go to Enchante, if you go to any bars and you're getting alcohol, these would all be in addition. But your day-to-day food from the buffet or from any of the quick service locations or your rotational dining, and free unlimited soft serve, by the way, that's all included in your Disney cruise, okay? Any of the kids clubs is included in your Disney cruise. All of the live entertainment, comedy clubs, that sort of thing, any of the entertainment, that's going to be included. Any sort of port excursions, those are not going to be included in your Disney cruise. You can include prepaid gratuities if you would like, or you can pay them at the end of your sailing. That's fine as well. And one thing I wanted to add on to this is that when you book with me, a Click the Mouse travel planner, you will get onboard credit that you can use on your Disney Cruise Line vacation. So how that works is it's based on your total cruise fare, pre-tax and pre-port expenses, and basically it's free money as a thank you to you for booking with me that you'll be able to use on board for any sort of souvenirs. You can use it for gratuities, you can use it for whatever you want, alcoholic beverages, whatever you want. So when you book with me, don't forget that you are going to be getting some onboard credit. All right, now we're sort of moving into the general Disney questions. So a lot of people ask me how far in advance they should book their Disney vacation. And the answer to this is as far in advance as possible. The reason for that is because prices only go up. Prices are not going to go down. And if they do, if a promo becomes available, I will be able to apply that promo for you. So you are getting the best and lowest price if you book early. So for example, 2026 Walt Disney World pricing was just released a week or so ago. And people who are booking now are going to get the best deal. And in the future, if a price drop happens because a promo is released, I automatically check everybody who's already booked with me and I apply those promos. So you're going to be getting an even better price. Prices only go up over time. This is especially true for Disney Cruise Line. As the ship fills up, you are going to be paying more of a premium as there's less staterooms available. So, and Disney Cruise Line bookings open up pretty far in advance. So the sooner that you can book your Disney Cruise Line vacation, the better. Another big one that people are always asking about is what are some of my best budget tips for people traveling to the Disney parks? I think a really, really big one is ordering groceries to your room. So you can get Amazon grocery delivery, Walmart, like literally so many different grocery delivery services. I use Vacation Grocery Delivery, and a shopper actually goes into the store, picks out the items that you want, and will deliver it to you. And they're so nice. They'll even text me if they like can't find something. Do I want something else if they can't find a certain item? So I love them. And it helps just have maybe some breakfast in the room, gets you some coffee creamer. Like, it allows you to save a little bit of money by having snacks in the room, which I really like. So that alone is one of my really big budget tips. Another one that specifically I think is beneficial for Walt Disney World is not getting the park hopper for Walt Disney World, especially if you're a first timer or you haven't been in a long time. Park hopping at Walt Disney World takes a lot of time. So in comparison to Disneyland, where I think the park hopper is absolutely worth your money, I think at Walt Disney World you could save your money if you are on more of a budget and not get the park hopper, because there is plenty to explore in each park. Your entire day is going to be filled if you just stay at one park, and you don't need to be wasting time park hopping or wasting money getting the park hopper if you're not going to use it. I know there are probably so many more questions that people have, and I know this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I wanted to close out this video by saying the one thing that I think people are making, you know, the biggest mistake that you can make when planning a Disney vacation. And honestly, that is not using a travel advisor. I had planned my own vacations in the past before I used a Disney travel planner, and I made it through okay, but there are so many ins and outs to the Disney parks and resorts that having an advisor on your side is only going to benefit you. If you are somebody who loves to plan your own vacations, we can do that together. You can bounce your ideas off of me, and I can be minimally involved if you wanted. And instead of all of your money going to Disney, you are helping a small business like me by supporting booking through me, because you're going to pay the same amount whether you book directly through Disney or you book through me. So instead of all that money going to get Disney, some of it comes to me. And I really like that, being able to support a small business. And I think that it's nice to be able to bounce ideas off of somebody, even if you're a Disney expert, to see what's going to be the best for your family. And especially if you are a first timer or somebody who's new to the theme parks or cruise line, you are going to be able to make the most of your vacation if you have help. We, hire experts when somebody needs to come fix pipes in our homes, when somebody needs to do our landscaping in our yard, and we hire experts for that. Your vacation should be no different, especially when we are no cost to you. You should be hiring the expert to be able to help you with the ins and outs of everything with your magical vacation. Sometimes this is your once in a lifetime vacation to Disney, so I would love to be there to help. I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to do it on their own. I think that's going to do it for this frequently asked questions video. Those were just some of the most frequently asked questions that I got from my colleagues and from everybody on Instagram. So thank you so much for submitting those. I feel like this is probably going to be a series because there's tons of questions I get about Disney, and it'll sort of be an ongoing thing to be updating my FAQ. So thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you watching my content. And if you're interested in planning a Disney vacation, please hit the link below. My quote form is down there. Again, my services are 100% free to you. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting on this video, telling your friends. All of that helps me so much. So until the next one, we'll see you real soon.